platform brings the conversation to the forefront once more, and we'll be discussing this issue with their Chief Social Welfare Officer of the Ministry of Women Affairs and Child Development in the person of Haja Habiba Adam. Haja, you are welcome to be ATV.
Thank you and good evening.
Before we continue, remember, ending GBV is a responsibility we all must take. It's not just for the ministry alone. Let's begin. What constitutes gender-based violence?
Gender-based violence, GBV, is a menace that is normally happening in our society, and so many factors brings to that, most especially poverty and issue of education. People are not aware of illiteracy, and also sometimes they are not fully aware of what is gender-based violence. That is what is some of the key points that is causing gender-based violence.
So, but when we say gender-based violence, it's a term we came to know about it during the COVID-19 lockdown. What do we mean? So what constitutes, or is it that if I slap somebody is gender-based violence, or what is gender-based violence?
Gender-based violence, as the name implies, it has different phases, and we have physical violence, we have sexual violence, we have psychological and emotional violence, and also economic violence.
So how was the prevalence in the state? How widespread is gender-based violence in Bauchi?
Gender-based violence is a menace that is widely spread into our communities now, most especially in the area of, when you talk about gender-based violence, people normally centered their mind on rape. And gender-based violence is not all about rape. Like I have mentioned some types of gender-based violence. I mentioned economic violence. I talk about psychological violence, which is also a kind of violence that happens, and it eats up the person silently, because some people will not even open up to say this is my problem and this is what I am facing. So that kind of violence happens silently, and it can even lead to death. Some will even hang themselves because of psychological violence, so it leads to death. But the one that is happening now, most is the issue of rape. That issue of rape, I think, is becoming something else in the society, which the state is also standing to see that it ends the issue of rape. Most especially, we have some IPs, and they are really standing with us in the government to see that they help us bring to an end the issue of rape.
Yeah, that was supposed to be like the next question, where I will ask about the structures put in place in Bauchi State to address this menace of gender-based violence and to protect survivors. So what are some of the structures we have on ground?
We have structures on ground in Bauchi, most especially the 10-man committee, which they are in 10 local governments. The 10-man committee presently is being merged with other structures in the local government, most especially some have undergone trainings by Plan International, but this 10-man committee was instituted by UNFPA, and which are we always go out three months, that is quarterly, to strengthen their capacity. Just 1 month back, we have went out to 20 local government to strengthen their capacity, and they are really doing well in terms of reporting. We have the reporting system. The ministry is the Ministry of Women Affairs is the one having the custodians of the gender-based violence. So every report from the 20 local government is being brought to us, and then we have the dashboard to now the national dashboard to impute the data.
Okay. So as you do impute data, can we talk about some figures? So how can you equate how many people have faced issue of gender-based violence within the time the dashboard came out?
All right, I cannot really give you the figure because that I think should be from the M&E department, but I believe we have a quite number of people reports that has been input into the dashboard, and something is being done really about that.
Okay. And we know the Ministry of Women Affairs and Child Development, you know, they deal with women and children, and we know mostly, even though men also face gender-based violence, but we know the women and our children face more. And then we know that the state has passed and assigned to the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which is the VAP law. And I will not even ask about the implementation because I know that's the business of the Ministry of Justice. But so I will leave that to them. So, but what are the roles that an individual needs to play in the society, like the boys, the men, the women, the parents? Do they have a role to play in trying to see that we bring to an end gender-based violence?
Yes, they have a role to play in the sense that the issue is not only about women. Gender-based violence happens to girls, happens to boys, to children, and even to the PWDs. All this happens to them. So if all hands are not on deck, then we will know how to bring it to an end. And I always liked saying when we talk about gender-based violence in Bauchi State, we are really trying to bring that issue to an end with the help of our IPs. Most especially, presently we have a project with UN Women, which is talking about ending GBV, ending gender-based violence, and the project is ongoing. We have also a project with Water Aid, also is talking about GBV. We have project with Plan International, also talking about ending GBV, and the same thing with UNFPA, which is also trying to see how we will end GBV.
Bauchi State, we know religion and tradition plays a vital role in shaping the attitudes of our people. What key role do you think religious and traditional leaders have to play in supporting survivors of GBV or help create awareness around GBV?
Thank you very much for that question. In the 10-mile committee that I have mentioned, we have the health, we have somebody from justice, we have somebody from the social welfare, we have the traditional leader, and we have the pastors and imams in that committee. The reason why they are picked from their various places of service is for them. The preachers have their own way of how to help, maybe through preaching in the mosques, in the churches, so that all this issue of gender-based violence will come to an end. You know, the society have a way of we all listen to we all have our faith which we believe in, and when you go, your leaders talk about it, and you know there's a way it will bring it to an end, because some of these things happening, some is because of lack of awareness, and they play a very vital role in bringing the issue to an end.
Okay. You know, the Human Rights Commission is saying one of the violence that is disturbing is the violence for minors, and mostly is linked to witchcraft. And as we just saw a clip of a girl who was accused of witchcraft, and that child is under Ministry of Women Affairs and Child Development. So what intervention do we have for children who are victims of gender-based violence?
The intervention we have for children who are victims of gender-based violence, we have the number one, that's SAC Center. I know the girl in question maybe will be in the SAC Center now.
And she's at the teaching hospital.
Okay, teaching hospital receiving treatment.
Yeah.
And after that one, I believe that the ministry will come into to intervene and stand for her. And we have also the trained people that are going to interview the parents to know what causes it, because sometimes you cannot just conclude an issue until you bring both the parents and the child to the table. Then we'll be able to know what's the next line of action. But first thing first is the issue of treatment. Let her receive treatment first, and then justice will take its course, because the justice will stand for her.
Yeah, you just talk about the SAC Center. How is the SAC Center being run? And then the shelters. Do the ministry have shelter where you protect either somebody running away from gender-based violence and you provide shelter for that person, or how do you handle survivors? Because that incident is very traumatizing and most of them end up with depression. Is there any intervention like in rehabilitation or reintegrating that the ministry provides?
Yes, rehabilitation for the children. First, especially for the survivors of GBV, when some of them they need to be taken out of their own environment where they so that they will leave that place entirely, and they will have a shelter where they will be kept for a while for rehabilitation before.
So in doing that, we know all these things came within the period of 5 years. What are some of the challenges in trying to create awareness or in trying to provide services to survivors of gender-based violence?
Sometimes, you cannot just give a service without the agreement of the survivor, or without her acceptance or his consent. Sometimes when you do not seek for their consent, even when you seek for their consent, they accept it. They will later now come back to you and say, I want to withdraw the case. So those are kind of challenges that we normally face as service providers. So, and apart from that, I also mentioned the issue of lack of awareness. There are laws enacted concerning that, but some don't even know what the laws is saying. Either will they even have to see the hand, they will know, they will follow it. Most especially like the VAB law you have just said, is the law is talking about men, women, and children. But how many of them knows about the VAB law?
Yeah. And then what is the ministry doing to create awareness? Because we know even in the VAB law there's a section, there's a clause there which says nobody will say I'm withdrawing. It's now the case between the offender and the government. So what is the ministry doing to create awareness? Because awareness is key in whatever we are doing.
Yes. So the ministry is creating awareness. Just like I've mentioned that we are going around the 20 local government. Anytime we are going out, we go out with the laws, like the approved version of the VAB law. We have it, and I think we have given it out in quite a number in the local government, and we still have it in the office to give it out to even the MTS, the NGOs and the rest, so that everybody will have it at his own this thing, and he will read it, so that we will.
I'm afraid time is against us, but I know the conversation will continue because this is an issue that is affecting our society. And so as we bring this conversation to a close, one thing is clear: GBV is not just a women's issue, it is a human rights issue. Ending it requires all of us to stand up and take responsibility. Remember, silence protects the abuser, but speaking out protects the survivors. Together, we can build a Bauchi state where everyone, regardless of gender, can live free from fear and free from any form of gender-based violence. And thank you very much. We've been discussing with the Chief Welfare Officer of the Ministry of Women Affairs and Child Development in the person of Hajia Habiba Adamu, and we'll talk at length issues around GBV. Keep a date with us as the conversation will continue. So thank you for coming, and from me, it's good night and God bless us all.